Hello everyone watching. I'm going to show you how to insert a transition state molecule into MoCalc 2012 and then do games and then find the enthalpy table from that. So here is an example of a transition state molecule I made. Obviously you might have something a little bit different, or you might be using this same transition state as well for your lab. But I have a CH3 molecule in the middle, I have my chlorine leaving group atom over here, and then my hydroxide or OH group nucleophile on the other side. So you should have already saved this to your computer, and the last video should show that. So once you have it saved, you will go to MoCalc 2012. You will open up Games, click Start, open Structure File. And then I saved all of my input files in a folder called Input just to keep things more organized. Obviously, I already have a ton of things in here because I did this lab already, but I named my input file ClCH3OH transition state. So here it is, and you can tell this is the correct file because it should say INP file right there. So I'm gonna open my file. And then games, it'll say, here we go, and you will click run games. So every transition state will have a different time that it runs for. Some are longer than others, might take a minute or two. It could take up to 5 or 10 minutes. I would suggest while you're running this, don't go off on other programs on your computer, and especially don't download any other big files or anything like that because it could interfere with what's going on here. So I would suggest just trying to find some other homework to do while you're waiting for this to finish. Hopefully it'll finish up soon. But in the meantime, I'll just play a little music while we're waiting, and feel free to skip ahead if you'd like to skip. Okay, so as we can see, it is done running, and you can tell because it'll say calculation successfully terminated, have fun, right down here on the bottom, and you will then click on output, and it will take you to the Notepad program. So from here, you are given a ton of information, but the only information you need is at the very bottom. So you'll scroll all the way down and then scroll slightly up, and right here you will see two tables, and in this row specifically it gives you enthalpy values. So this one shows kilocalories per mole, this one shows kilojoules per mole. So this is the table you want to look at, the one that's above the second table. And the value you want to look at is in the row that's called total, and you want to look in the column that says H for enthalpy. So overall, this is the value you're looking for. It says 149.803. So that is your final enthalpy value for this transition state, and I would suggest writing it down somewhere in your notebook because you will need it later on for this lab. So now that you have that, the next thing you can do is open up MacMol, and then you'll click File, Open. And I'll go back to my inputs folder. And now, as you can see, we have 4 different files here. This one, we have a GAM file, this one, our input file, a different file. So that's what happens when you run games. You get all these other files that come with it. And the one that you want to open up is this one, the GAM file, GAM. So you'll open that. And then here you can see it here. You can scroll out just by, or zoom out, it's just like scrolling. And then you can move it around like this. And sometimes another bond will show up in between like the CH3 and the nucleophile, or between the CH3 and the leaving group. So you want to delete those bonds. Luckily mine doesn't show that, but there were quite a few times where it did. And in that case, you'll just click on the bond, you'll right click, and you'll just click delete bond. So obviously I'm not going to do that for this bond because I want to keep that there, but that's what you would do just in case you want to delete a bond that's not supposed to be there. And another important thing to do is to check the geometry of your molecules and the bond angles. So for example, the CH3 group should be a trigonal planar geometry in which these are 120 degrees from each other, these bonds. And then another thing you want to look for is to make sure that if this were a line running across here, that these atoms are about 180 degrees from each other. You don't want like the chlorine group to be somewhere down here and then you end up with like a 200-degree angle or something like that. It should be pretty straight. So if it's not, I would suggest going back to Avogadro, and then you can just remake the molecule and place it in a way that works better. So it looks better in the final image. And then from here, you can just kind of set it up how you like the best, and then you can press, or you can screenshot this. I just have a button on my computer that says print screen, and then I would just go back into my files, go to screenshots, and I would just insert the image into my lab for the report. But yeah, so that is it for this video.